Welcome to 4-5 Simplifying Algebraic Fractions. We have two objectives in this video: simplify fractions using the GCF, greatest common factor, and simplify algebraic fractions. Before we begin, let's review two key terms. Simplest form is a fraction when the GCF of the numerator and the denominator is 1. And we went over previous lessons with GCF, but just to remind ourselves, say we have a fraction of 3 over 21. This is not in simplest form. Precursor knowledge states that 3 and 21 do have something in common. It is 3. So I'm going to divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3, because 3 is the GCF. And then now, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 21 divided by 3 is 7. Now I re-examine my new fraction, 1 over 7, and I do know that they do not have anything else other than 1 in common. Now we come to algebraic fraction, a fraction with variables in the numerator or denominator. And here's what a algebraic fraction could look like. 2a times b squared over 4 b squared. Alright, we would like to put these in simplest form, and I'll do quickly here. I'll focus in on the 2 and the 4. I know that the GCF for both of them is 2, and that would give me 1 over 2. Then I'll concentrate on the next part of the fraction, which is a, and I notice that a has nothing to reduce with, or does not have a GCF, so it stays where it's at in the numerator. Then I look at my final section here, my variables b squared, and I notice that they're exactly the same, meaning that they could cancel each other out. I am left with 1a over 2, or normally it's written a over 2. We'll do some more work in further slides. Alright, in this slide, just some more examples of fractions in simplest form. We have 1/4, 1/3, 3/4, and 17 over 50. Each one of these fractions is in lowest terms, or in simplest form, because their GCF is 1 for the numerator and the denominator. Now we look at our next group, fractions not in simplest form. We have 3 over 12, and 3 over 12, we can look and notice that the GCF is 3, and that would make that 1 over 12. Then we can look at 15 over 60. We know that they both have a GCF of 15, and that would be 1 over 4. Our next fraction, 6 over 8, I notice that there's a GCF of 6 and 8. I can divide this by 2, the GCF, and that would give me 3 over 4. And finally, my last fraction, 5 over 20. I notice that the GCF of 5 and 20 is 5. I'll divide the top and bottom by 5, and I get 1 over 4. Once again, something that you probably have done in the past, just a quick review. We can use two methods here. The first method is I'm going to use prime factorization, where I take 9 and list out the prime numbers of 9, which is 3 times 3. We've done this before, factorization. And I can take 12 and list out the prime factorization of 12, which is 2 times 2 times 3. Then I compare the numerator and the denominator, the top or the bottom, and see if there's any numbers that I can cancel out. Notice that I have a 3 on the bottom and a 3 on the top I can cancel out. Now review my fraction. I have a 3 on top and 2 2s on the bottom. I can't cancel any more 3s, and since there's no 2s in the numerator, I can't cancel those out. Now what I'm left to do is go ahead and write what's left on the top and multiply what's left on the bottom, and there is my answer. In the past, you might have done something like this, where if you found the GCF of 9 and 3, which is 3, you would have divided the top and the bottom, And you notice that 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Both of these are acceptable, as long as you show some work, see what you did. Alright, let's use these two methods that we just learned in the previous slide, 15 over 60. Let's list our prime factorization of 15, 3 times 5. 60, a little bit longer, is 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Alright, now let's compare. I notice that there are no 2's in the top to cancel out with the ones on the bottom. So I'll go to my next set of numbers, is 3. I have a 3 on top to cancel and the 3 on the bottom. I have a 5 on top and a 5 on the bottom. Let's go ahead and write our answer in simplest form. I just want you to know that there is a 1 times all that in front of there. So that is the reason why I have a 1 and not a 0. And then 2 times 2 is 4. Once again, here's something that you've been taught before. Maybe you knew the GCF of 15 and 60 was 15, so I divide the top by 15, divide the bottom by 15, and my result is 15 divided by 15 is 1, and 60 divided by 15 is 4. So either way is great. Once again, just show some work, and if you want to check your answers, you could always plug it into the calculator. Alright, here's a bit of information that's good for most students. You can also divide the numerator and denominator by common factors until the fraction is in simplest form. Obviously, you can see right here that maybe you do not have the time to find the prime factorization of 5,280 or even 88. But you do know, since these are both even numbers, that you can divide by 2, which we did here. The end result, of course, is not in simplest form, but you continue on reevaluating the fraction each time. Notice that they're both even again. You can divide by 2. The result is 22 over 1,320. Notice that it's even. That means it's divisible by 2. A re-examination again is 11 over 660. You notice that they have a factor of 11. You can divide the top and bottom by 11. And we are now have reached our answer. So once again, just a good idea to know that sometimes you just have to battle it out and divide by a number until you finally get it simplified. Sometimes most people can't get it in the first try. Alright, it says measurement. 88 feet is what part of 1 mile? Alright, so what we need to do is really make this into a ratio, a fraction. So I'm going to put 88 feet over 1 mile. This is part of dimensional analysis. I'm going to rewrite this with the smallest measurement of the two. And I notice that feet is a smaller measurement of miles. So I'm going to keep my feet. And I am going to type on the internet, jog my memory, look at a list that I might have somewhere, and I notice that 1 mile has been listed as 5,280 feet. Alright, once I did that, you can notice that this was the same number we had from the previous slide, but since we showed you that sometimes you have to do it step by step, divide by 2, divide by 2, most people are always wondering, what is the greatest common factor for 88 and 5,280? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is 88. So I'm going to divide the top by 88. 88 divided by 88 is 1, and 5,280 divided by 88 is 60. So what part is 88 feet of 1 mile? It's 1 over 60. Or there you go. All right, we have an algebraic fraction. And what we want to do is simplify it. My suggestion is that you break it down into pieces, which always works. So I have 21 over 35 is the first part. And the prime factorization of 21 is 3 times 7. And the prime factorization of 35 is 5 times 7. Then we're going to factorize the x, and that's x times x. And there's only one y. Next up, there's only one x, and there's only one y. Now that I've done this, I can quite clearly see that I can cancel out my 7s. I have an x on top and an x on the bottom to cancel. There are no more x's on the bottom. And there's a y on top and bottom that I can cancel out. So now I'm going to gather my numbers and variables on top. 3 times x is 3x. And there's nothing on the bottom but just 5. So it's 5. And ladies and gentlemen, that is algebraic fractions simplified. Let's try that again. This time we have a times b times c cubed over a squared times b. So I'm going to factorize the top, or the numerator. So I have a times b times c times c times c over, and the denominator is a times b. Now that I put these in factorization, prime factorization, I can sit there and examine the top and the bottom and see if there's anything I can cancel out. I have an a on top and an a on bottom. Can't do any more a's. Go to my next letter, or my next variable. I see b, 1b on top, cancels the 1b on bottom. There are no c's on the bottom. So here we go. It's time to gather all our variables on top. So c times c times c is c cubed. And all that's left on the bottom is just the a. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our answer of our algebraic fraction, simplest form.